We're surrounded by better tools, sharper cameras, smarter AI, and endless upgrades. But when does better actually help us make an impact? And when does it just keep us from showing up? This week on The Rundown, we explore perfection, presence, and the courage to say, this is enough. Let's get into it. Welcome to The Rundown. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to The Rundown. Welcome to officehours.global. Hello, Jeffrey. Hello, Guy. Hello, all of our friends who are watching. Good to see all of you here. You are all good enough. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Hey, Tamara.
And scene.
And scene. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. Thank you. I'm thinking about, I have a lot of employees that I work with who have family in Venezuela. So I've been thinking a lot about the folks down in Venezuela, sending them lots of love and prayers their way and support, of course.
Agreed.
Yes. Mr. Tony Mobley's here. Hello, sir.
Greetings.
That was delayed satisfaction right there.
Well, I just didn't remember to unmute myself.
It happens. It happens. What are you going to do? How are you today? You good?
I am good. I have no complaints. Had a great show last night, so
good.
Happy.
Good. Fantastic. And of course, Lois Richter. Hello, Lois.
Hello. This is the good enough, Lois.
The good enough. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. Yep. Dave has the week off. I'm so excited to have Bill Davis back with us. Hello, sir.
I'm always excited to be here. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I'm happy that you have allowed me back on the panel another time. I must not have been too idiotic last time.
I'm so excited to have you here because I love laid back Bill without the black shirt. I love laid back Bill.
Yeah. I still have a lot of black t-shirts in there just waiting for the next opportunity.
Exactly. Fantastic. Sky is also away this week, but oh my goodness, Professor John Idelson. How are you, sir?
Doing great. It's a lovely day here in beautiful Monterey, and it's always fun to be here with the group. And Bill Davis, you have to have people with D's in their first name. Is that part of the deal here?
That is, yes. That's entry, actually. That's your entry fee. John Wallace says Night Bill is a different beast. Yeah, that's very, very true. Night Bill.
I don't know if my wife would use that noun, but okay.
All right, folks, let's get our wallets out. It's time to go shopping. Because we are in the midst of Prime Days. So I didn't know this, but Prime Days are usually in July. They tricked us this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that now they moved it up to June, which I have to say is awful because for my business, the fiscal year starts July 1st. So I don't want to actually buy any of my next year's stuff until next week, which means if I wait, I miss all the deals on Prime Days. So
right.
I don't know. Have you found
to wait till November?
What are Prime Days?
What are Prime Days, Lois? You tell me.
Well, I'd say that's probably Monday and Tuesday, but I'm sure you have a different definition.
No, Amazon Prime Days. Sometimes it's so funny explaining things to Lois. Amazon Prime Days, the 23rd, I think it was, through the 26th. So we have one more day tomorrow.
One more day
of Prime Days, and a whole bunch of stuff is marked down. There are some really good deals. An Apple Watch Series 11, and we're going to talk about Apple in a moment, is marked down $120. $120. That's the 42 millimeter.
So this is Amazon Prime selling you stuff and giving you a discount because they're having a good day.
Because, well, I don't know if they're having a good day, but yes. But the DJI Mini 3 drone is $150 off, $500 off a 65-inch Samsung OLED 4K smart TV, $500 off. There are some good deals out there. Are any of you? I actually haven't really shopped this year. I don't really need anything, so I haven't bothered.
It's good enough.
Have any of you jumped on these?
You get to a point in your life where you have most of the main categories covered, and now you're just kind of doing improvement things. And I had somebody, I was listening to a conversation on Discord the other day, and somebody said, I used to work in Amazon, and I used to be at someplace at a decision-making level. And I got to tell you that a couple of things happen. There are good deals to be had. But a lot of the times it serves as we've got a bunch of stuff in the warehouse and there's the flooring is getting out of hand.
Oh, really?
So let's make sure that we get rid of some of this stuff through Amazon Prime. Not everything goes on sale, and that's how they pick some of it. That just makes good retail sense.
That's interesting for other companies too.
Yeah, everybody does clearances to try to control inventory. Perfectly reasonable thing in retail to do. The other thing that they were talking about, though, is that sometimes they do creep prices up so they can turn around and increase the percentage off at the actual Prime days that they know are coming on a specific date. So just understand, this is all selling stuff. That's its own science.
Absolutely.
It's also interesting that this year you can find deals at Walmart, at Target, and at Best Buy, and everywhere else. So
they all have
a little.
to compete.
If you aren't finding what you're looking for on Amazon Prime, flip over to somewhere else, and they will.
Because they all. And what's in?
Oh,
go ahead.
You could go and you could ask AI to compare the prices on all those sales for the thing you want.
You absolutely could. Yep. Just write a little thing in Codex. What's interesting to me about Prime a little bit is the Hollyland Mark 25. Oh, it's down 25%. Because I need some. I need a new set of my. Wow, those. Okay, sorry.
Focus.
Sorry, focus, David. Focus. Is how. One of the things that's interesting to me about Prime is not so much the deals themselves, but how Amazon creating Prime Days forced all of these other resellers to also discount their things, because if they don't, then they stand out like a sore thumb on Amazon, on Amazon, and they don't get any of the business. And so this is Amazon really driving commerce. And how sales are done. It's really sort of interesting, I think.
The thing that really amazes me is this idea of dynamic pricing. It's since everything is online and everything can be shipped and purchased with a click that happens in an instant, they literally can switch pricing instantaneously, almost without you knowing it. So you can look at a price and go, that's what it costs. You can come back 5 minutes later and it's a different price. And then you can come back 5 minutes later from that, and it's a different price.
Brick and mortar stores are doing that. Walmart is doing that. So they have dynamic pricing within the store on
digital
their
price tags that can change while you're shopping.
Which I think,
which is why you can take something and you can put it in a cart. It saves the price, and then you can decide later if that's really what you want to buy. So people can game the game.
Right.
This Hollyland
unless you put it in your cart at one price, you come back and it's 20 cents less.
We've lost David to the Hollyland.
Sorry, I'll tell you, it's because I actually posted this in office hours last week. I'm looking for not cheap, but relatively inexpensive little cameras and little clip-on mics that I can give to my elementary school kids so that they can do some. And this is perfect. I mean, these little mics are perfect. It's $90. $90 for two transmitters and a receiver. That's pretty fantastic, actually. So.
We've lost David.
No. I'll come back to that later. Sorry. Hey, speaking of prices, this morning, not really a surprise because Tim Cook dropped a hint about this last week, but boy, was it a bit of a sticker shock. Apple raised a whole bunch of prices. I believe it was 15 items, way up. The MacBook Neo, the entry is no longer $599. It's now $699. The MacBook Air went up $200 to $1,299. MacBook Pro, The 1 terabyte MacBook Pro, went up $300. The iPad Air went up $150. It looks like iPad Pro went up $200. The the Mac Studio, one of the models went up $500. And Tim Cook says that Apple can no longer fully shield customers from a spike in component costs tied to the AI boom. This is a 100-year flood, Cook told the Wall Street Journal. I've never seen anything like it in over 40 years. And then, of course, because of this, Apple's stock dropped a little bit, 6%, I think it did.
I don't think they're going to be the last because, let's face it, not only are they getting hit with component costs, but all of the shipping and the rest of that with oil prices doing what they're doing. It's a tough time for margins out there. And I think they're going to try to get ahead of some of those because I think, sadly, it's going to last a while. I don't think it's going to come down as fast as it went up. And
I think it's going to. Well, I don't know this for a fact. I know for a fact that it is impacting my purchase decisions. Right. I had on my list, not for myself, but for my school, to buy 2 MacBook Neos and another about a dozen iPads. I'm not doing anything now. I'm gonna wait because that's gonna cost another $2,000 with all these prices.
But do you think it's going to get better? I don't think it's going to come down.
I think you're right, and I think I might have to forego them for now because it's just too expensive. But I think you're right. I don't think it will get better. Interesting.
I think that's.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The fact that they have come out this early and said we're going to start managing expectations before we actually announce, it indicates that they don't think it's going to get better. If they thought there was even a shot of it getting better, they're like, look, we got to announce it now. If it does get better, we win. We can be like, we were going to raise prices, but because we care about you so much, we were able to figure it out. But chances are they are not going to be able to figure it out.
May also be some psychology about the fact that if they ratchet up prices now, they are able on the big buying seasons to go now 14 to 20% off this or that,
right,
knowing that their margins are protected.
That's an interesting question, Bill, right? Is let's say things do get better. Will Apple bring these prices down to where they were? Or, if there was a $200 hike, will they just drop it $100? And then by that time, we will have forgotten that it was a $200 hike. And we'll be like, oh, $100 off.
Exactly.
It's also interesting that iPhones, at least in this round, were not touched. I'm sure that's because that's their biggest, moneymaker. I'm sure. I don't know. It's this is a little stunning to me. Apple is already, we know this, that Apple is the pricey, option out there. But this is pretty significant, these price hikes.
I don't feel like I was shocked by it though.
Yeah.
Sorry,
John,
go ahead.
I was just say, I'm not sure I'd use the word Apple's the pricey option, particularly in schools when you're looking at the cost over time, repair and service. Yeah. So, but I think Apple has a higher initial price, but probably for you, David, if you really need it in the school, probably your next opportunity to get some bargains will be when they, in August, announce whatever the discounts or the things that they'll be doing for the back to school sales.
Well, they also have, discounts for teachers and schools and things like that, but
yes,
I don't think Apple is actually more expensive than other folks because
sure it is.
If anything goes wrong, I just get on the phone and I call them up. I have not had to hire a wizard or a repair guy or anything like that in the last 35 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm looking now also at on Amazon because if there were a time to grab these, it would be on Amazon Prime Days, perhaps. But so right now, the iPad 11-inch, which honestly is what I would get, not the sorry, blinked out there for a moment, is $300, which is not higher than it usually is. I don't think. That's the bottom of the barrel, but and that's got an A16 chip. So I don't know. Interesting times. Brody,
maybe this is the good time to go be good enough.
Yeah, maybe this is well. So okay, Okay. Lois for the win. That was the thought that ran through my mind, Lois, as I had to reconsider the purchases that I was going to make for my school because of this. I know that those tools would be put to good use. I know that they would help us do good work, better work, maybe. But I am in the process of making a decision that the work that we can do without them is, as you said, good enough. And so what we wanted to talk about tonight is this psychology of never being done. And for those of us who live in probably in not only the tech space, but in production space in particular, you don't do one show. You do one show and then another show and then another show. And there's always this grind of, can we be better than the last time? Can this show be better? Can my audio be better? Can my video be better? Can the production be polished enough? Can I make that transition quicker or smoother? So I really wanted to think about the philosophy of enoughness, right? And what is the difference between excellence that serves the work and perfectionism that hinders that work but also sometimes protects the self from embarrassment, from critique, from all of those things. So let me start with, because I don't really know as much about the performance world as I should. Tamara, let me pick on you for just a moment. Could you talk a little bit about in performance spaces, both plays and TV, this idea of there has to be a time when you call cut, when the director has to say that's good enough. And I've heard enough directors or producers say, "Oh, we could have gone on forever." But what is that experience like? How do you make those calls?
So there's a couple of ways that those calls are made. One, anything is possible with time and money. If you have all the time and all the money in the world, anything is possible. So a lot of calls sometimes have to be made because of budgetary concerns. You have to say, this is good enough for what we can afford, either in time, talent, or money. In television and theater, it's a little bit different because television and film is most of it is pre-taped. There's obviously live television. So you don't really have the impact of the audience that you do in live production. So live production, you rehearse for what is going to be as perfect as possible, and then you go out to do something, and then your audience is a whole other character, and that dictates some of the things that happen on stage, a lot of things that happen on stage. So, it is a balance between what is what we want to do and then how to continue, with live performances, particularly theater, where you have to do, 6 to 8 shows a week. You are constantly trying to figure out, how am I going to keep the performance alive for myself so that I can honor the story that I'm telling and also honor the audience that is in front of you, given the feedback that they're also giving you.
I wonder how much.
I spent 7 years in summer stock theater on the tech side. And I think it's a professionalism, 7 shows, opening night, Tuesday night, 2 shows on Sunday, a matinee, an evening show, early show on Sunday because we had to pack the truck and be ready for the next one on Monday. But one of the thrilling things about working with the professional summer stock theater was it never is this show good enough. Every show, the actors, the crew, this show is going to be better than the one we did before. And we're going to give the audience the best experience possible. And I think so I think when you say good enough, I think there's a level of professionalism that you're always striving for good enough. I've never done a performance or a broadcast or webcast that at the end I had my room for improvement. I think if I ever got to the point where there was no place where I could improve, then I would say, okay, I'm done with that.
And from the very beginning,
I'm not at age, and most of the improvements that I need are surgery or a youth drug because
right.
I'm getting good enough by retreating in my old age. I'm not going to get any better.
You know, we from the very early days of office hours, we have always had, I think, an RFI, a room for improvement. You know, we had a dedicated person who was actually looking at the show and talking about that. I think that at the same time, in the ethos of the office hours, or the gestalt of the feeling of the office hours, is a tension between, yes, we want people to come grow, we want everyone to, you know, have the opportunity to learn, and also this very high standard that we have. And the question of where is that line between wanting people to look and sound and be and present their best, and the line of keeping people out. And this isn't just office hours. It's any, you know, I'm thinking, John, about when students have to finish a paper, and they get to this point where they have to just decide, this, whatever I'm going to turn in is going to be good enough.
Well, I think the discussion you're talking about is something that when I was teaching television production classes, and most of the time the crew were the fellow students and sometimes they were the talent, I would have liked to have had either a stronger crew or a stronger talent, but within this teaching situation, it was the best we could do. And it was a good learning experience, which it was. But when we did projects for outside groups, we did a number, my courses were at the advanced level project based. So we had CNN as a client, we had IBM, we had Pioneer Video. So when we were doing work for other people, the level of what is expected, what is the level of performance? And then the question is this what we're doing good enough to meet the level that we promised? And my goal is you always under promise and over deliver. See, I even blew that.
Yeah.
So I think these are not unique challenges. I think the office hours, we have such a focus on having good video, good audio, good internet, and that's probably just good professional practice. And when you see somebody on CNN, you know, like this, answering and talking about how we're going to solve whatever the problem is, you begin to wonder, you know, does this person have the skill and the knowledge to be able to solve this problem if they can't solve how they look on the TV in an internet call?
Bill, you do a lot of corporate type work, I imagine. How do you find yourself having to live up to their standards versus your own standards? When is it good enough for you?
Yeah, the big thing is whose standards, because I worked with a lot of different producers and they all have different standards. One that I regularly work with is a writer, and the scripts take forever because literally if there is a comma out of place, it has to go back around. If there's anything on screen that is not grammatically absolutely perfect, it'll go back around for another row. Other people, they're more interested in, oh God, the lighting looks great, or the story itself has engaged me. And I know we're all we want the story to be the star of this. It was really interesting. On Tuesday, I got to go to a seminar. They had 7 people in a panel who produce shorts for the web. I don't know if you know about these things. They're coming out of China and places like that, reel shorts and these other little micro dramas. And they're about 2 minutes long, and they release 7 as a group, and then you subscribe and you can get more. And they're little mini soap operas. But it was fascinating listening to the producers who are succeeding monstrously with these things. These things are selling millions and millions and millions of dollars worth. And there's some things that are really interesting about their audience that I learned the other night. But the thing that most impresses me is they said, listen, you have to understand what is important. The lighting isn't important. The camera work isn't important. The only thing that's important is the relationship between the characters that comes across to the audience. I don't care if you blow lines. I don't care if the thing was green on the table and in the next shot it's purple. I do not care about any of that. I care about whether the audience connects with the characters. And so I asked, I'm assuming, since this is all kind of vertical video, it's 100% vertical, 100% short form. I'm assuming young people are watching it. Totally wrong. Totally wrong. The metrics, and they have metrics for everything, tells me that most of that content is being consumed in the Midwest by women who are 60 plus.
Who are missing soaps that used to happen.
Or they just are living difficult lives and they want, when they get off their shift, to watch 10 minutes of this or 20 minutes of this, or their commute is an hour and they want the unlimited subscription and they want to watch these micro dramas for the full hour and just zone out. And, you know, we used to talk about that as the same thing that a lot of people did with television. I don't care about Gilligan's Island is not the best quality in the world. I just want to zone out, relax, and take the stress
Bill,
off.
so why have we been getting this wrong? So why have we, as a community, put such an emphasis on the quality piece of this?
Because there's markets for all of these things. There is a particular market who doesn't care about that level of quality at the level of, oh my God, your lighting shadows were horrible or it looked like driver's license. There is a market that doesn't care about that. There's another market who wants to do Metropolitan Opera who cares tremendously about how good things look. And their art directors sweat over those same details to make sure that every frame is a painting. And we like both of those things. We'll go to the movie that really, you go, that's artistically strong. I really loved what that director and that producer did with that. But then we'll also go to the silly comedy that doesn't have those same standards. So I just think there are a lot of different audiences. One thing I learned from that seminar more than anything else is that there's no single rule that rules the world anymore. There's no single audience that rules the world. We're all getting divided into these little niches, and people are trying to sell into these little niches. And if you're a little serial drama person, you'll have, if you're a romance novel consumer, you'll have these people over here. If you are a rodeo consumer, you will have stuff over there. It's just getting so micro-targeted down to the tiniest thing, and you can't say the audience wants X because there is no the audience.
Office
I think
hours is also pointed towards people who are producing things for businesses. In other words, people in office hours who have companies that teach speakers how to speak and have businesses. And I keep remembering people coming back and saying, oh yeah, I was on this event and everybody was going, you look so great. And then they had customers.
Yeah, you know, I've had that experience, Lois, and it's funny. Mm-hmm. I actually just had it the other day. I was on a call with actually a SaaS, a services software that I have been using for the past 4 years, and I'm actually jettisoning. I'm not going to be using them anymore. And this was sort of an exit call, and because I want to tell them that I loved their work, but I'm going in a different direction. And at the end of the call, the guy said, "Can I just ask you? You look so good." You look. In fact, right. I was honored to become a Zoom MVP a couple weeks ago, and we were on our Zoom MVP call earlier this week. And the Zoom guy was like, "Wow, David, is that what? Tell me about your background. What's that?" It was really funny, right. But I'm not sure that translates into anything meaningful. And so, Lois, that's actually where that's sort of the crux of my question is, have I gone to great lengths for not? Was it necessary?
I think you've gone to great lengths and you are reaping the rewards of having done that. Plus you had a whole lot of fun doing it.
Well, that's very true. Yeah.
I think there's a reality too, that we are asking people now to purchase our goods and services in digital spaces. So one of the things that I do is I help artists, writers, actors, producers show up in digital spaces. And the reality is I can get them as close as I can to office hours. Great. But that's not necessarily what they need. But they do need to feel confident and excited and show up in digital spaces in the same way they show up in real spaces, because that's where we're having to pitch things now. So if you're asking people to buy things from you in digital spaces, then all of the work that we've done to make sure that we show up and look good in digital spaces is important in 2026 for everyone, not just office hours people. But I do think that, it does have to do with medium and audience.
So John Wallace just wrote in the chat, and I just think this is perfect. He says, after watching Zoom's developer conference, which was on Wednesday, I believe, I wish they all, Wednesday and today, I wish they all cared as much as we do for their audio specifically. So these are the people who are making the tool that allows us to communicate. And I think all of us have probably seen when, look, Andy Carluccio is an animal all to himself. He comes on, he looks professional, he sounds good, he's got the mic, all of that. But there are lots of other folks at Zoom who don't spend the time, and they've decided that the way that Zoom manages their audio and manages their video, and whether they use the touch-up or the blur background or whatever it is, that is good enough. And so John Wallace and I, because I do the same thing, we watch that and we cringe because we can't hear well or we can't.
But I give another perspective
I'm
to that?
I'm starting to think that maybe we're the crazy ones. Is it our standards
let me give
are just
another,
too high?
Let me give another perspective to that, because the other perspective to that is that if they come across as so perfect, they are unattainable to the average person who they're asking to buy into their products, right? So I think some of what we do is, like, I do a lot of events where I know what would be great. I know if I could reach into their camera, their thing, I can frame them better and I can get them a certain amount. But good enough is attainable in some ways, right? So I will get someone there on the event in January. And then when we redo that event in March, I'm going to get them a little bit further. I'm going to add a little over the course of 6 years. The event can't be run by anybody who's not an event person because it's actually too complicated. It can't be done by the volunteers that we have doing it. So I think that sometimes when we are, when we are like, it can be better, it should be better, we're missing the opportunity to say, what is the next step that we can get this particular person to that is good enough and that is already better than what they were doing when they showed up to begin with? And then what is the next step? And part of that is knowing who your audience is. Bill touched on this. I've been really lucky in my career. I started out in soap operas where, you're right, we did not care about lighting and sound. However, we had high quality lighting and sound for our medium. There's a certain calculus that every single medium has. My most recent has been in animation. There's certain lighting things in animation, and there are certain things where you go, we can get that shot better, but I can't redo 675 shots. I can redo 500 shots with my team. That's going to have to be good enough. So I think that some of it is not imposing our good enough on every single good enough. I think that it is contextual with whatever you're doing.
You do tend to lose
I think I would
authenticity if you shoot
look
too
at it
high.
differently.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say to David, with the audio at Zoom, when you're saying it's good enough, we know that audio is critical. And from the early days of COVID, all the audio challenges that we had and good microphones and the like. So when you look at what Zoom has done with its audio, making it better, having better sound, better isolation, better sound for different needs, be it original music or being people in very noisy areas where you have jackhammers running behind you. So I don't think it's good enough. They have done incredible things to make it so the audio portion of these interactive online Zoom calls is good enough for people to hear. And better than it's been before.
And we're all, let's be clear, we're all Zoom fanboys and girls here. So there's no argument that the technology that they've done is amazing. It's really less about the technology and more about physics and the choices that people are making. If your microphone is a little tiny capsule in your MacBook or your iPhone or your iPad, and it's arm's length away from you, the audio is going to be kind of crummy. It just is. That's physics. That's not Zoom's fault. Zoom does a really good job of compensating for that. The question I think for me is, what is the message that good enough is that? Let me change that. Sorry. Is there a, does being good enough send a message? And what is that message? Tony, I want to ask you, actually, Bill, and then I have a question for Tony. Sorry, Bill, I cut you off before.
No. Well, I was just going to say authenticity seems to be one of the touch words that's coming out a lot. I would expect that somebody presenting from the Zoom corporate office is to have their stuff really together. Now, if they are doing a remote with somebody in the field and that somebody is a technician next to their truck, my expectations are lowered substantially. And if they're on a set of AirPods and I can hear them and I at least get the content out of that, I'm fine with that. And I think most people are now. So there's this shifting context of where are you in the chain? Where are you in the hierarchy? I'm not sure I want my mechanic to look like all of us do on this show. We're kind of wearing suits and I'm expecting them to be in coveralls, and I don't mind a couple of grease spots because they're doing their job correctly that way.
Yeah. Tony, I wanted to ask you about, because in the religious world, presenting the way that we do is, I think it's a very different monster than if a CEO or a CTO is speaking to a crowd. And in some ways, it's much more about the impact than it is about the polish. And impact can be made. We've seen it when people say, wow, you look fantastic. Impact can be made with good tools, but it can also be made even without those great tools. It could be made by an incredibly dynamic presenter who's able to overcome those technical challenges. How important is, you're kind of at the nexus of this. How important are all these tools, all these goodies that we buy on Amazon Prime Days, for that impact to really translate?
So it's a struggle for me, and I'm being honest about the fact that it's a struggle for me. It's a struggle because where I am, because of my exposure and experience with office hours and, wanting to do the best conversation with Tony Mobley that I can do is problematic. And part of the reason that it's problematic is that, particularly in the house of worship experience that I'm having currently, is that I am, in a sense, in a different space than most of the virtual participants in the worship service. And one of the things that I have to be mindful of is where I want them to be is not necessarily where they should be. And the way in which I wrestle with that is that I really have to push aside where I am and accept that for them, their good enough is going to have to be good enough, because they are sincere in what they're doing, but their understanding or idea of this professional stuff that I'm kind of doing, I'm struggling with it. I have to say honestly that I have major issues with it, because of where I am in my faith. I always want to project the best, and I never get to, like, even with when I'm doing a sermon, I never finish the sermon. I just stop. And I run out of time because I'm not satisfied with it. I'm hearing the Spirit continue to speak, but time has run out. And so when it comes to the other parishioners, I have to let go of my technological bias, because that is what it is. That's what it is, because they are sincere in what they're doing, and that is good enough. It really is good enough.
That word sincerity is really seems really important.
Yeah.
You're making me think though. Saturday morning, I'm leading a service. Everyone's at home. No one's coming in. Everyone's in their own homes, and I am driving into my office in order to lead that service. Now, I could absolutely do it from here. I've got the guitar, right. I've got but I've got more stuff in my office. I know it'll look better and sound better in my office, and so my office is an hour away. So I'm going to drive an hour. I'm going to do my service for an hour and a half. Then I'm going to drive back home because of the standards that I'm holding myself to. I think I will be just as impactful if I did it from home, but I also have that technological bias that you have, I think.
But it's also about being comfortable in your own space. That's too, true also, right? So we have become comfortable in these spaces. When I run events where I know the other people are, like, I've had to incrementally go, okay, we're starting here. I know we can go here, but we're going to start here. And over the years, we add a little bit more and we add a little bit more. I show up in the way that I'm comfortable, and people go, oh, that's Tamara. She has a microphone. They do not have microphones, but they're comfortable. And each time they're getting more and more technical, I present them with things. And then a few weeks later, people go, oh, I saw that thing that you set up. I clicked on it. It was so great. I'm able to use that now. So I've brought a few more people on, over to the dark side, but I think that it's also about where we feel comfortable, how we feel comfortable showing up. You know that if you're in your studio and your office at work, you don't have to think about it because you know where all the tech is, even better than when you're doing your home office, because your home office is fine, but it doesn't have the buttons in the place that you want them to have it. And so the truth of the matter is, the most important thing is not your tech. The most important thing is that you are not thinking about your tech, so you can show up and do the most important thing.
Yeah. That's very, very true. Can something be technically excellent but still have no impact?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What, 50% of content?
So, have you scrolled recently?
Exactly.
So, David, I have viewers out there. Look at this. Look, I'm out of focus. It's in focus. This isn't right. And somebody wrote to me on Discord 2 weeks ago when I was on and pointed that out to me, that you need to adjust your camera because you're not in focus and your background is. And it's like, I have no clue how to adjust the camera on this old computer. I mean, what can I do? Well, I could make the background blurred, and that would look really strange. I could get out a different camera and put it here, and that would make we looked at that before we went on the show. And so the question becomes, is my poor camera stopping people from hearing what I'm saying? Are they paying so much attention to what that looks like that they're missing my messages? Or am I dragging the show down and am I harming the rundown show? So there's questions on that. And if I were not as confident a person as I am, I might decide, I shouldn't be on this show. I'm not going to do that because I'm Lois. So of course I'm going to be on the show. But it's this whole thing about, at what point is your technology good enough for the situation?
You know what, Lois? I agree with you 100%. And the problem is that I am one of those people that does get distracted now. and I'm going to blame office hours for this in the best way, in the most loving way. I get distracted, and I sometimes have a difficult time hearing the message when the microphone is crackling, or when there's a sync issue, or when there's whatever those things are. I'm one of those people that will listen to a Zoom developer conference and miss some of what they're saying because I'm frustrated at the quality of their microphones. That's not normal. Like that, like we have all found ourselves as technical snobs. We really have become that, I think. The part of that worries me a little bit is exactly what you said, is that people will choose to not show up. We've actually heard this from a few people. It was a few years ago. I remember, when people, now I think it's a little easier. It's certainly office hours is more accessible than it was at the very beginning for good reason. But in the beginning, I would hear people say, I don't look good enough. My microphone isn't good enough. I can't go on. And we may have missed out on some important voices, or I wonder if we did because of that.
We may miss out on some voices, but I think with the office hours, I've got a weird setup here. After hours, we spend about 2 hours making it better. I think, Lois, that's the strength of office hours, in that somebody noticed it, and you can improve that, whether it's another camera or looking at software that would fix your old machine. So I think they're giving you good and loving advice, saying, we want you to look the best you can. This was distracting. Use the resources that the office hours community has to help you figure out how to make that happen. I think, Tony, that's a lot of what the office hours community did for you. Go ahead.
And the people there I know how to make it better. But when I was doing the Birding with Lois show, I was making it better. I was, doing all these things. But then as life changed, I'm not willing to put in 40 hours to work on something and figure something. And so I'm just going to say, I'll show up and I'll be good enough until somebody tells me I shouldn't be here.
Well, I think you bring up a really interesting point too, because I've had amazing help in the office hours community with, JJ and Mickey and like all of the Sunday crew. Like they really have sat with me and have been, through the craziness. And you guys here have been through craziness with me, where I was like, and I've said this privately to all of the people who've been involved, but there would have been a time where I would not have shown up, because I was like, absolutely, I'm not okay. And I only showed up because I knew this group, meaning the rundown group, were going to be like, Tamara, we can get you to wherever you need to be and we'll help you later, but we come anyways. And I think that is that's very specific, and it's not universal in our community. And I think that there are other things about what you said, Lois, that really resonated with me. Mickey has told me one thing that I definitely need to do. I already knew that before he told me. I already have literally the equipment to do it. But I will tell you, as a caregiver for 2 people and someone who's going through her own medical issues, there isn't time to do that work. When I have to go, I'm going to spend time with my mom, or I'm going to lock myself in the studio and rewire so that I can have perfect backlighting and lighting that actually I knew how to do prior to office hours and have not had a chance to do it. So I think that there is what I appreciate about this show is that the support that I have felt has made it so that I'm able to come out of my shell. I'm able to do things that I was never going to do. I have all black clothes. Like the fact that I'm wearing red on camera, that I'm on camera at all, as someone who started, as a child working in theater, is a big deal. And it's something that I can only say I could do because of this community of people who are like, come as you are and we will help you. That isn't how I feel in all of the community that we have here. And I've been in situations behind the scenes as PSC where I've literally pulled someone into a breakout room so that I could help them through a cry session so that they could feel comfortable to show up. And no one should feel that they aren't comfortable to show up because of some piece of technology. And so I think there is a dichotomy between what we say and a need to be better, and also a need to invite people into our community and support them where they're at and grow them where they're at. And so like the best stories, like Tony, you are like the living example of someone who they took you where you were and helped you grow and helped you build. And I feel the same way. People are like, sure, that girl, that person can come in and do this. But at the same time, we don't want that to be a reason for people, certainly not to not come on this show and not show up here and have a conversation, because this is a show about community and about humanity and about empathy. And if that isn't our core thing for what we do here, even though we are part of the overall office hours community, this show has to base in that. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Don't tell
no matter
anyone.
how great our tech is.
Don't tell anyone. We don't even do mic checks on this show because I can't get my meters
Yes, we
working.
do.
So don't tell
We
anyone.
do mic checks without meters.
Tony,
but
we
there
do
are
it
people who
without
come up to
meters.
me and
That's
go,
right.
"Well, you're part of office hours, so it should be a higher technical. It should be a certain standard." And I'm like, you know what? This show is about community connection and conversation.
Yeah, but even this show has a higher standard, which is good. I'm not complaining about that at all. Yeah. Tony, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, where do I begin? So as it's been mentioned, I'm kind of the poster child for someone coming into office hours originally looking like, just the opposite
Looking
of
beautiful.
everything that you're supposed to do.
Looking beautiful. Tony.
I mean, well, in the early days, David, I was in my bedroom, going through prostate cancer treatment and going there every day and then listening to office hours. And I was coming in and the light was coming through the window because that's where I was. And I'd sounded terrible. And I was on an 8-year-old MacBook at that time. And
that still
was
works.
just-
That MacBook still works. He's tried it on Zoom Test Kitchen, and it still works.
Well, it did die for about 3 years, and I resurrected it. So, but there were voices. There were voices that were positive and voices that were negative, and I'll be transparent to say that. But the positive voices outweighed the negative voices. And because of that, I am I'm in the office hours realm in terms of quality and presentation. And now if you ask my congregation, they would say, "Oh, that's just too much. Too much. How many screens do you have? I mean, well, do you need that big old microphone in your face?" But for what I understand that we have, for some people, only one time to make a good first impression. One time. And I would never want to be the person that could not do their very best to discourage or for someone to lose what I'm saying because I was doing something that was distracting. And so because of that, I work very hard. I'm probably the only person that is on the office hours, that's in the office hours community, that is using an iPhone as their primary camera. And it works because I have people supporting me to help me continue to make it acceptable. Or yes, I'm going to use that word, acceptable, because I've had people tell me that you really shouldn't be on with an iPhone as your primary camera. You should at least get a Sony or a Lumix or something, a high, a webcam, a professional webcam. But what I want to go back to is what I originally said about hearing the voices that encourage and lift you up. Try as best you can to weed out those voices that are negative, because you really do, like we've been saying all evening, professional events, TV. I mean, how many times have you seen somebody on a network news program that, you're looking up their nose and all of that? Now, again, we are snobs. We are technology snobs. That's true. But there are other people who are not snobs that are distracted by that. And so if you can, do the best you can. And that's really where I sit with it. Would I like to have the camera that's been suggested? That, yes, it's not in my budget.
Yeah.
So I do the best I can with what I have.
Yeah. 1 year ago, Marcus Brownlee, who, he does tech reviews and tech shows and tech news, and he's huge in the internet. He has millions and millions of viewers for all of his videos. He did a video a year ago called "How My Video Gear Is Changing," and he was talking about how he wants to get out more often. So he's now making more videos just using his phone, that he's just holding his phone in front of him, which is what he's doing here, or he's using an action cam or something. In fact, his entire, I believe, his entire autofocus channel, which is not autofocus camera, it's about a focus on automobiles, which is a very cool name. I wish I'd thought of that. I also wish I cared about cars. But that whole series is done just with him with his phone. And so he has kind of stripped down, and like you said, Tamara, he's kind of stripped down all that technology, gotten it out of the way so that he can just tell a better story, or the story that he wants to tell, I guess.
Well, he tells a good story, and the equipment is appropriate. But when we look at Tony, you have taken all the advice and coaching, because the phone is only part of it. You've done the lighting. So I think for the average person to look across our screen, they have a hard time saying you don't have a high quality camera.
I agree 100%.
When you compare it with all of us.
Right.
So I think what you've done is you've done the best with the technology that you have. I think, Tamara, what you're talking about is that expectation or branding. If the office hours brand is we're professionals doing this at the highest level and trying to point to business and industry what they should look like, then if that's the brand, then we maybe are a different brand. After hours, anybody could be on any camera, and we've seen people do that on phones and whatever. So I think that's really the bigger issue is, what is the expectation that the audience has when we say this is an office hour level performance? And I think it's a little bit, David, like you were saying, what is your expectation of a corporate event? And is your expectation different than really what they were aiming at?
Yeah.
And that's the question of if they go to Tony, you need to have a F30, Sony camera. I don't think you need one. You have a camera that looks just as good as any Sony.
If anyone is offering, I do need one, and I'd be very happy to receive it. So I'm just putting that out there. If anyone's offering, all right, real quick, Tony, and then we got Lois and Tamara. Go ahead, Tony.
I just wanted to share that not this past Tuesday, but Tuesday a week ago, Office Hours had a show where it was iPhone primarily users or smartphone users doing, and I just really want to piggyback on that from the standpoint of what you were saying about Marquez, David. This is a different time. And the experts that were on Office Hours Tuesday a week ago were talking about how you can take that iPhone and really, truly make it work for professional looking devices. And I just really wanted to lift that up.
Lois, go ahead.
Every week, David makes this thought document that we can read ahead of time and think about, what we're going to talk about and all that stuff. And there's this one section that really, I think, it helps describe what we're talking about. Excellence is devotion to the work, the creation, the presentation, whatever. Perfectionism is protection of the ego. And that's what? Okay. Excellence asks, how can this better serve the audience, the student, the listener, whoever? Perfectionism asks, how can I avoid being embarrassed or criticized or be a failure or something? And I think that that's an interesting way to look at it, because when we're saying, is something good enough, perhaps good enough isn't the right word, is something acceptable at this time. Now, if it's an ongoing show, then maybe each show you try to get better. If it's a one-time thing and you're doing it at home and then you're going to publish it, you look at it and you go, now I'm going to do another take. Okay, this one's okay. And you publish it. But the difference between putting out something that you could improve, but it's what's needed now, it's going to affect people now, the message is timely, versus trying to make everything perfect so that no one will have any criticism of them. You can't fail. Well, if you make it so long and drawn out to become perfect, it may never get published. It may be after the fact. Maybe your idea, your story, your communication is right for now, but wouldn't be right a year from now. So think about excellence and perfectionism.
Tamara, go ahead.
I have a perfect piggyback off of that. One of the greatest things that happened to me in my career was I went and saw my very first Broadway show. My very first Broadway show was City of Angels. I sat in the theater and I was finally going to see the professionals do it. I had been doing theater. I was already union at this point. So I had already been doing professional theater for several years. And I sat in the theater and I was like, oh, I get to see this thing. And one of the things that happened was they pulled the set too soon and the actor literally went flying off of the set. And it actually calmed me down a little bit, because what it showed me was that professionalism wasn't perfection. Professionalism was understanding how to get in the moment and continue to go with whatever circumstances that you have, which is the key in live anything, is really continuing on, figuring out the problem, solving the problem in the moment. It's one of the things that I really love about office hours and about that RFI, because I've brought that into my productions because it's neutral. It is not I'm picking on you. It is, hey, here's something I noticed. Can we fix it in the moment? We fix it in the moment. Can we fix it after? We fix it afterwards. Is it something that it happened? It's a one-off. It probably isn't going to be fixed, but it probably won't happen again. And you can sort out some of those things. But that lesson that perfectionism wasn't perfection, that being perfect wasn't necessarily professional. It was, what do you do in the moment to give people the best of what you have to offer, and being able to navigate through whatever else is going to keep things going. And that's helped me, because there's many times where if I wait for things to be perfect, then exactly what Lois said, they won't get out there. I work with writers. That is my real zone of genius. And I spend much of my day working with writers and talking them off of the ledge, because there's a story that every single person has to tell. Everyone has a story. I don't care if you're a professional writer or not. And if you are living in this space where everything has to be perfect, your story is not going to get out there. And there's someone who needs that story. And if it's one person who needs that story, the story needs to get out there. So we get into perfectionism and it blocks us from being able to move forward. And I think that is not professionalism. That is very different than professionalism.
I may have misread this comment, but I think that Guy Cochran is buying all of us a red V-Raptor.
I love that. I read that too.
Nice.
Yeah. It's possible that I'm misreading his comment, but I think we're all getting one of these. and that would be just fine with me. Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
you had talked earlier about how the standards or the expectations can be radically different for different audiences. I'm wondering how much of this is how much of is the finish line always moving? Right? Is there
I
ever?
don't think there is a finish line. I truly don't think there is a finish line. I mean, if you're not hoping you're better next year than you were this year, then what's the point of doing what you do? You're always, I've all through my career, I've looked back over and over again. And I've done 5 corporate things, and I look back at 6 and I go, but oh my God, 4 was so bad. I mean, I've gotten so much better since 4 to 6 and 6 to 25, and you're constantly going through this process of becoming better. And it's not just that. Here's one of the things that really kind of blew me out of the water mentally. It was thinking about professional classical musicians. They are expected to play the piece perfectly, right? No missed notes, no errors in that. And so they don't compete on being able to successfully navigate the material. When I hear people who really understand this talk about one pianist versus another, they talk about these incredible subtleties, expression, touch, emotion, working with the conductor to bring something out of the exact same notes that another orchestra and another conductor will play in the same sequence, but they manage to imbue it with something that is special. And so that completely rewired my brain. And I'm running across that because now in these audiobooks that I'm doing, I used to listen to a lot of single voice things, and some of these performers are amazing. But now that I'm seeing more and more, and now that I'm involved in producing more and more multi-voice things, it's been an incredible eye-opener. I can't tell you the number of times I have had my cast working with me. And we usually read through it, the whole thing, and then we read through it a second time, taking out the attribution like he said and she said, because you can tell who's saying. And then we go through the third and do ISO lines. But I can't tell you the number of times a scene that I have been in mentally 7 or 8 times, they suddenly hit it and everything comes alive because she paused a little more. And he had a hitch in his voice when he answered her this time versus the other 7 times that they've done this for me in this last hour. And you just go, that's it. That's what I was looking for this whole time. And I had no idea. And it only started happening once I was able to get that collaborative kind of thing happening in the performance. And it just tells me that if you're, is there more perfection than that moment? Maybe there is, but that's where the fun is now. It's not in just getting all the round plugs in the round holes and the square plugs in the square holes and all the grammar correct and the rest of that. There is this artistic thing that sometimes it just washes over you and you go, oh my God, she said the same thing, but this time it broke my heart.
Yeah.
This time it truly broke my heart.
And
God bless you for doing that.
Yeah, we forget sometimes that all of this work that we do is about transmitting something. It's all about sharing something, and there are things that we can do that can help that transmission, and also things we can do that can hinder that. I remember when I first started playing with this stuff when I first realized that I could see how there's like a little border around us with the little green kind of stuff behind it. As soon as I learned that I could do that, I had things moving in the background and they like breathing and moving, and no one had to even tell me this. I just discovered that was so distracting, and it was just completely taking people's eyes off of what I wanted them to pay attention to, which was me. So some of these, it was a great lesson that some of these, that what isn't good enough is anything that is taking away from the transmission of whatever you are trying to transmit, whether that's for Tony the gospel, whether it's teaching, whether it's a story, whether it's a good conversation, whatever. What are you trying to get across? And then what production will help you deliver that. At the end of the day, that's the question. The question really shouldn't be, how can we do this better? The question is, are we transmitting what we want to transmit in the best possible way?
Are we succeeding?
Are we
succeeding?
right?
Yeah. I wanted to just piggyback a little bit. There is no finish line for a person, but there are finish lines for projects.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're writing a book, there's a finish line.
Interesting.
If you're living your life, nope.
Right.
Well, actually, ironically, when you're writing a book, oftentimes there isn't a finish line. I mean, you create an artificial finish line, because comes a time when your publisher says, "Okay, it's time. Like, we need to sell the book
Once
now."
it's published, it's done.
No, but that's
I don't know.
Not
if that's
necessarily,
true as
though.
much
No,
anymore,
because you can.
Lois.
Yeah, you can change in between. What's fun is looking at books that have had
Edition.
multi printings and seeing how they are different. So I think you can.
And now that
more
it's
than that,
digital,
online now, I do spots and things like that. They go up on the web, and if somebody says, "Oh, we've changed our logo color," something like that, I say, "It's fine.
Yeah.
Give me 5 minutes. I'll change it and I'll put it up there.
Yeah.
They'll just replace the file." And now, from this moment forward, everybody gets the new color. So iteration becomes its own drag. I've got some clients who will never say this is it.
Right.
And they were constantly fiddling with things, and sometimes that can be
Hey, you know what?
It's
hopefully
not
you're
that bad if
charging
you're
them a
billing
lot
by
of money.
the hour.
That's
Yeah,
that's a really interesting topic, Bill. The idea that nothing lasts forever anymore, because it can
Right.
always be iterated upon. Right? There's
all the digital work we're doing
Yeah.
is all up there in this cloud, and the cloud is instantly accessible, not just for the audience, but for the producers of the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are no rules for this suddenly. How many times is it okay for my client to come back and change the tagline?
right.
Right.
It can be 0 to 50.
You know, I'm
and
thinking about-
somebody's got to negotiate that.
Even YouTube even promotes this actively, you know, by A/B testing different cover art and things like that.
Yes.
I'm making a note, because nothing lasts forever. That's so interesting. Constant
Or
iteration.
it does last forever. It just morphs.
Well, it's kind of persistence is a myth. The persistent thing that
Yeah.
used to be persistent when it was a published book and that was it and that typesetting was done, that kind of doesn't as much exist anymore.
Wow. Okay. That may be our topic next week. That's so interesting. I love that.
I love that.
I'm so grateful to all of you for spending some time. John and Bill, Tony, Lois, Tamara, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. You are all good enough, I promise. Along with Vic and John and Guy and Dahlia and who else is watching? There's some other names. Captain Jack Cannon's watching. Robert Sababity is here. Tlalak is here. Good to see all of you. Thank you for watching us. Hey, tomorrow morning we got more questions with, I have to tell you, the finest audio and video you will find on YouTube. Tomorrow morning on officehours.global. Join us for those questions. Tomorrow afternoon, it's time to update your Zoom, because boy, did we get a whole bunch of releases earlier this week that we'll be playing with those in the test kitchen. And we will be back here next week for another episode of The Rundown. Thank you, guys. Have a lovely rest of the weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye.